Today we're going to go over mechanisms of the brace and how to breathe into that brace to create more stability in our trunk so that we can lift heavier weights and have more effective squats and deadlifts. So this is one of the first things that I think athletes should learn whenever they're getting into powerlifting or getting into lifting or anything that's involving weights. But this starts off poorly in the beginning with lifters when they're in high school. I think for the most part is that coaches teach their lifters to arch their backs really hard or excessively look up, and it's all in an attempt to keep lifters more upright when they're squatting or just create a neutral spine. But the coaches a lot of times are maybe poorly informed as far as what's actually happening to create that tension. So we have some better ways that we can go about doing that and better ways to stabilize so we can transfer force more effectively. So one of the common cues also is that I'll hear coaches tell their athletes to breathe when they're lifting, or they're coming up with their squat and they need to breathe. And we're going to use this as a drill here a little bit, but we're going to actually do the opposite of that to create more force in there. And a lot of times lifters that have tightness in their backs when they're squatting or when they're deadlifting, it's because they're flexing really hard in their backs trying to create tension rather than stabilizing the trunk more effectively with their abdomen. So now we're going to go into some drills as far as what we can do to make these lifts more effective. So a few things that we're going to do to start off with is just going to be finding proper positioning of the ribcage relative to the pelvis. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is just get some working definitions for our purposes here. So the first thing that we're going to want to define as far as neutral spine is, in this case, we're going to want the ribcage to be centered on top of the pelvis. And so to do that, we're going to look at the abs first. So, and your rectus abdominis is going to be the thing that we're focusing on right now. So your rectus abdominis, your six-pack muscles, they can pull your ribcage down, like if we're doing a crunch. The other thing that they do is they're going to stabilize the pelvis in anterior and posterior tilts, like if we're in a leg raise position. And as I lower my legs, your abs are going to be working to keep your hips flexed towards your rib cage as your legs roll further towards the floor. And a lot of times lifters, when they're doing this exercise, will slide their hands underneath their butt to make their back stop hurting or to make the exercise easier. And this is obviously just supporting the hips to keep your hips from rolling forward and your hips going to that anterior position. So that doesn't really accomplish what we're trying to work when we're working the core. So I put people down in this position and we go through this drill just to try to understand how your abs are situated in this exercise here. So past that, we're going to find that position, and then we're going to move the lifter into the 90-90 position on the wall. And from here, we're going to push your lower back into the floor, and then from this position, we're going to exhale as hard as you can. So after the forceful exhale, you'll continue blowing your air out for as long as you can until you feel like you have no more air and your ribs have dropped down towards your hips and your abs should have contracted harder at this point. From here, we hold this position and take a sharp inhale without letting your chest or rib cage rise and push your air down into your back or down into your abdomen. Now in this position, this is where you'll see a lot of lifters, their shoulders rise when they're squatting or when they're trying to create tension. Their shoulders will come up and they're really losing that position. Their ribcage drifts away from their hips. So from that position where all of your air is exhaled and your lower back is driven into the floor, we want to take that sharp breath and push your lower back forcefully into the ground. But we need to be concerned with not letting your ribcage drift away from your hips. So some of the good cues here, we can think about inflating your stomach like a balloon or 360 degrees of air, or just trying to force your diaphragm down into your hips or into your lower back. So the combination of these create a lot more tightness in your trunk than either one of those independently. So most of the time lifters they're good at taking their air and they just hold their breath naturally, and that's a okay start. But we need to do these in conjunction together, and we're going to be able to create a lot more force that way. So this is a hard drill to learn just in this position. So where we can go a step further with it, where we get in the same 99 position and we just place a kettlebell on the lifter's abdomen. So after already feeling those neutral positions that we need to be in, resting the kettlebell on the abdomen can help the lifter naturally create tension. So we don't want the kettlebell to sit into my stomach and sit into my gut. So naturally I brace against it. So this is the same thing that I want to do when I'm under load, when I have a belt that I can brace against. I just want to feel that kettlebell, or the cue is going to be, in this case, just feel the belt. So from here, we're going to go through the same drills as I want to forcefully flex against the kettlebell. And then from there, exhale. And we'll get a stronger brace than we had before. And then breathe into the kettlebell. And then from that position, that's the feeling that we're going to try to accomplish when we're standing under load with the belt on. So now we need to take this off the floor because it's unnatural staying down here, and it's going to be hard to integrate these two. So with all of these things, once we've found with the positioning that we're trying to find here, we need to get off the floor and we're going to move it to squatting. So from here, we're gonna start with a goblet squat position, and we need to start with that rib cage down. So goblet out in front of us, rib cage position down, and again, find that brace. Exhale to lower the ribs more, and then breathe into it. And so from here, we're going to drop into a squat, slowly trying to hold your position, and then again, a long exhale, holding that position down at the bottom of the squat. Another breath in, breathe into your stomach, 360 degrees of air, and stand back up. We're going to repeat this drill 5 times with the breathing. Every time that we do it from the bottom to the top, we should be hopefully trying to find that same position that we had on the floor, and the same position when we're initiating the squat and when we return to the top. So the breathing can help you find the position down at the bottom, and then we'll repeat that 5 more times without the breath at the bottom, and that will be more like what we're doing when we're actually squatting. We'll be holding that air, holding that tightness through the whole squat. So this works really well for squatting. Obviously, there's more cueing that needs to be done to integrate the shoulder positioning, because your rib cage are going to be pulling down, but your lats and upper back are going to be pulling the opposite direction to stabilize that. So those are more videos I'm going to be making. The next one is going to be specifically towards deadlifting, because there's even more that can go into it that way, with maybe how I can create more length in my arms and pull slack out of the bar while stabilizing the trunk and not letting my back flex excessively. So I'll go into that, and I'll make a video specifically on bracing in the deadlift and how to position yourself better with the deadlift. But hopefully this video was informative with the brace, and we can go through all of these drills, ask me questions, and hopefully it helps.